928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Stumbling down the road with Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff as she carries stones, digs holes, and wheels her shovels on her way. This road is the real path. It is never easy and never clear, but always entertaining. This journey has not been a seated event, as Bridgette walks, runs, stumbles, carries, digs, drags, laughs, fights, sings, prays, dances, kicks, screams, and oftentimes falls.
Hello? Yeah, sit tight. We're in promos. We can't hear them, but we'll just mute until we go on. So just hang tight. Hey everybody, this is, okay, make sure there's no feedback here. Okay, so anyway, hey, this is Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff of Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show. I'm on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find me on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you can hit the schedule button on the website, and then you can click Studio A, which we're in today, and my show occurs on, and you can go to the 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a bee with a flower, and click on that, and you can find some bio information about the show, and also contact information if you want to contact me. And we are 100% listener supported. So while you're there, check out the funding link and see all the amazing ways that you can help our network and all the work that all of us do, since we all volunteer our time to bring you informative information. And each show is unique and different on Revolution Radio, and we're the oldest radio network online, I believe. So anyway, today I have a guest. Usually I kind of know people before they come on, and have a little bit of an understanding, but I got an email from Ken Rula this last week, and my guest's information was on it, and it was just, he was very interesting. So I reached out to him by email. I didn't think that he would, immediately respond to come on the show, and it turned out that I had an opening today, and so he's on. So before we get started, I want to give listeners some links, because I know how all you guys like to, go and check out who the guest is that I'm talking about. And there are two links. One is newpyramids.store. Newpyramids.store is the website, and it has a lot of different links on there, including the man that I'm going to have a conversation with today. His information is on there about what he's up to, what he's been doing. And then there's also a really cool YouTube channel link, which I'm going to give you. And the first words in Russian, I believe so, but I'll just give you the other part, which is Fly Over Pyramid Complex. And it flies over a pyramid complex that's being built, and the houses are pyramids. And so we're going to talk to him about as much as possible that we can get in 2 hours. And I'm sure that we're not going to get much in because he seems pretty amazing. All right. So hopefully I'm going to get his name right. So Valery, and then, let's see, let me get back over here. And then I'm going to try to Uvarov. So you tell us how to say your name. Sorry.
Hello, America. It's nice to hear you. So actually, my name is Valery, just Valery Uvarov. It's easy. It's a Russian name. So half Russian, half Tatarian. So Valery.
Yeah. So tell us about, usually what I have is I have, for my listeners, I give them kind of I'm going to let you kind of give them a background of, who you are, where you came from, and how you got to the work that you're doing today.
So for the last at least 30 years, I'm investigating ancient legacy. And first of all, Egyptian legacy, but beside Egyptian, I was investigating Chinese legacy, Mayan legacy, Sumerians, and the other ancient civilization. But Egyptian legacy is still have a very scientific shape and very easy to understand if you take or you go to this knowledge from the scientific point of view. So, ancient Egypt, pyramids, ancient temples, and ancient tools which ancient Egyptian priests, and not only them, used daily. Why I was so deeply interested? Because these instruments not only giving us like a review, like understanding of how ancient Egyptian priests saw the world. Actually, it's much deeper. These pyramids, temples, and the wands of Horus and the other tools, this is the way to learn and understand how we can make in the nearest future a transition to a quite new level of our spiritual, physical, energetical development. At that moment when I came to understanding, I was so captured, I was so fascinated by ancient texts. And what is interesting, the deeper I go into, thousands of years of our prehistory, more I saw that our predecessors clearly understood that there is no death as we understand it. And ancient knowledge, if we just ask me, okay, Valery, can you give us just shortly what actually that ancient knowledge was about? That was about consciously controlled reincarnation. And then you can ask, well, okay, why? And okay, it's good, it's interesting, but why you are so stuck? Why you are so captured? Because in ancient texts, it is said very, very clearly that if you do this transition through what we call consciously controlled reincarnation. First of all, you can plan your future life. You can plan the body. You can plan country. You can plan to be male or female. But most important is that your spirituality will explode so much that you will be able, as ancient texts say, to talk with the gods mentally. You will be understanding the language of animals and birds. You will be able to see through the earth. And you will be able to talk with the people not only on the earth, but also on the other planet. It means that a human being become like a half God. And I think it is easy to understand me that I was so captured because, first of all, I tell you honestly, I love kids so much. And what I'd like to do is to bring this knowledge forward to people so that we could use it today, tomorrow, and make this very important spiritual transition like whole country, whole America, whole Russia within the following 10, 15 years. Isn't it fascinating?
It is fascinating. I've studied a lot of shamanism that has those particular types of belief systems.
So, and then from that, I came to some details, some instruments, and how one instrument or the other instrument have been working. What actually is the pyramid? How pyramid have been used? How we can use the pyramid very beneficially for our health, spiritual development. So, and this is the reason why I completely changed my life. And I devoted my life to investigation of ancient texts, actually ancient science. And you can go to my websites and see some results of these 30 years of investigation. And some of the results have been done scientifically on the basis of Russian Academy of Science, which is very serious, not only on spiritual level, also on the medical level. It means we can today use it to very effectively fight against cancer and many, many other things. So I'm open to talk to you about it today. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, yeah, you were super interesting, and the thing is that I had never heard about you before, or I'd seen you on the internet. So my curiosity was definitely sparked by just the things that you had available. So, well, what do you think is like the most where you're at today? Where do you think is the most important information to tell people about your studies and work that may know nothing, have no understanding?
So you told me that you learned about me just for the first time, but people who have been involved in UFO research for last 30 years, they know me pretty well, because my first part of my life, I have been UFO researcher, practical one. In Russia, I have been the first professional UFO researcher. And I tell you honestly that investigating UFOs on scientific basis, in very close connection with secret services, with the military services, which were very, very open for such cooperation, I came to understanding, first of all, that those ETs, they are also people like we are. And some of them, they have the same type of genetic as we have. It means that if we just start to start to build kind of a communication, which actually I tried to do. We can learn a lot about technology, which actually they used for developing of their civilization. So that was the first steps which have been stimulating my interests very, very, very seriously and very actively. But just having that possibilities sometimes not only watch that spacecrafts which are sure flying over our planet, they're landing here and they have their practical interests here, and they are also investigating humanity. They learned a lot about humanity, but they are still investigating us. And once they told me, if you want to understand our interests, you need to know more about prehistory of your civilization, what actually happened with your civilization. This is the reason why I spent 30 years investigating, for example, Sumerian texts like Enuma Elish and the other texts, which contains a lot of interesting facts and data. So today, we can use this knowledge for our daily practical life. And while I was working, for example, over the pyramid complex, we started to build the pyramid, huge pyramid complex right in the middle of the city. Why we started? Because I was invited by one of the, this is the pretty young man. He was 45 years old. Sometimes we call them oligarch, but he actually not only oligarch, he's just a young man who told me, listen, the city where I live, we have the biggest campus in Russia, student campus. And there are sometimes almost 300,000 students. Listen, Valery, he told me, is it possible, just using that ancient knowledge you are talking about and you are writing about, to create an energetical system for stimulation these students and kids' creative abilities? And I was so astonished that I said, yes, for sure. We made kind of experiments, and I can give you just one so that you could understand how it works. It was 9 years ago. It was 2010 when one of the men, he invited me to his flat, to his home, and told me, listen, I have a daughter. He's 8 years old. So naughty. She cannot sit a second on one place, but she's already 8. And can you give us kind of advice what we can do for our daughter so that this knowledge you're talking about could help her to develop her abilities and so on and so on. But at that time, I came to a strict conclusion that we can make miracles with our kids. In general, it looks like this. We need to create a certain energetical environment in the room, in the house where a child or you, for example, are living. So, and we created such energetical system exactly according to ancient texts. And then I told, okay, now you should make a choice. What you gonna teach your girl? To be a musician, to be a, like a sportsman, or maybe you want her to be a painter. What would you like? And he said, okay, musician. I said, okay, great. Now, when we have created this energetical system in his house, but he had a 4-storied house, big one, and we created what we needed. And I said, now just buy a piano. And then you need to do a very simple thing. Just invite, for example, her name was Liza, and say, okay, Liza, just make a sound on the piano. And then do everything on a very positive stimulus. Like, Lisa, you made so wonderful sound. Just great. So in 2 years, this girl played with all orchestra in Europe. Can you imagine? For 2 years. She was 8, and then when she was 10 years old, she became a very famous musician. This is the way how this technology is working. And for sure, this is the reason why I want to share this knowledge with people. First of all, for our children, because we can help them to become just genius. Those people who will be able to change this world for better within the following 10, 15 years maximum.
Yeah, that's pretty outstanding. I love it. It's good. So what did you do with the technology? I mean, what do you do? Like, what's your mindset when you approach, something like that? I mean, how do you put it together and decide and create it like in a 4-story building?
Ancient text says very clearly, first of all, you need to understand, just take an account that the central focal point, that was so-called the energy of the Mother Earth. In ancient Egyptian texts, this energy was called Ra. Even in Old Slavic texts, this energy, in Indian texts, this energy was called Ra. So, and then this technology says, you need to create a very simple instruments for one reason, to synchronize your aura of your body with vibration of the aura of the planet Earth being in this Ra energetical vortex. Everything sounds simple. So synchronization. So if you will synchronize your aura, then how ancient text says, all illnesses, all black energies will leave your body, and you will become clear, and you will be able to do well. You will be like half God. So, and I tell you, this is not difficult. Even if you look on the Cheops pyramid, yes, it's a huge instrument, and there are many, many ideas about the Cheops pyramid. But on the other hand, this tool is very simple, but very effective. And actually, what I'm trying to bring forward and to tell people, first of all, don't be afraid. Go ahead, use this energy, because according to my experience, I was astonished to see that many, many people, they are scared of this type of energy, especially when the energy is strong. But I tell you, no, this is not dangerous. But what you should do is just to remember, any energy which you get during meditation, just visiting different power places, should be synchronized with the energy, with the aura of the mother, or with the energetical body of the Mother Earth. That's all. And if you look in all ancient texts, you summarize these texts. You just, utilize and then filter out the main idea. And the main idea is simple. Everything is around synchronization. So what we have to do is, first of all, just to learn about it and then start to use it. That's all. Actually, knowledge is already described. We had many experiments, very successful experiments, and we know how to use it very effectively without any risk for human, health. Quite opposite, with a very beneficial effects. So,
No, I think, yeah. I mean, I was just, thinking about all the things that you were talking about and how we can change. And I've found personally, working with the earth kind of energy, that whenever I'm focused in on like biodynamic farming, being outside and touching the earth and making medicines for the earth. And like now I'm doing herbalism. And so I'm out and about looking at plants, collecting plants, talking to plants. And I just watch my life, and my mind change. My health improves. I may be in a world of drama, but I don't participate in that drama. And then my focus gets better and better. So, and I don't know, how do you produce it? How would you produce that kind of, connection to the earth and the energy in a 4-level building, or say a 200, apartment building?
Well, first of all, any person who will decide to come closer, not only to understanding of the technology, but also to realization, what we need to do is just to make kind of a transition in a certain place, transition for this very important type of energy, which in ancient Egyptian texts is called Ra. Actually, pyramid is the instrument who creates kind of a transition, like a hole in the aura of the planet. So, and all the ancient tools have been created for two main ideas. First, like pyramids, temples, special energetical sources. This is the reason why they have been trying to find the right location to build something on it. Because even you remember the spirals, huge spirals, which they did on the body of on the surface of the planet. This is the system how to concentrate, how to create a certain energetical vortex, which will be moving and then concentrating in a certain spot. And when you bring this energy into a certain small spot, here in this area appear kind of a transition, and immediately very special energy from the parallel energetical dimension starts to move into our dimension, and this energy contains all we need for our life, everything. This is the reason why ancient priests, they were so knowledgeable, because this energy were opening up for them like a doors. It was energy which were connecting their brains to actually the information field of the universe. It's amazing, I tell you. For example, like the wands of Horus, which you can see in the hands of any Egyptian priest, any pharaoh. Go to any musician, any museum, and look on the figures. They are holding something in their hands. This is exactly the tool which have been used for very interesting purpose. First of all, they knew that universe, and you can find information about it, that universe has a very special form. The universe has a form of a skull, of a human brain. So on one hand, it says that human skull and in the universe are in a certain resonance. Inside of a human brain, there is so-called hypothalamus and hypophysis. This, how it is called, pituitary, right? My English is not so perfect. Pituitary system. So, and if you take these ones, which has whether special quartz crystals inside or meteoritic iron inside, through the projection in the hands, this instrument starts to stimulate your hypothalamus and hypophysis, and it brings your brain into the resonance with the universe, with the informational field of the universe. So on the one hand, it sounds maybe pretty simple, but on the other hand, this absolutely amazing technology built on understanding how this world is constructed, how human being is constructed in reality. And that was the key moment in ancient knowledge. So, and if we will just share this knowledge with people, we will let people see how everything is constructed. I think we can make very quick, very effective steps, not only in medicine, not only in spiritual development. We can very quickly become inseparable part of the universe. We can come into ongoing daily communication with the higher realms, with the civilizations which are higher than we are in development. But as I told you at the beginning, they have exactly the same genetics. And it means that instruments which they gave to humanity thousands of years ago can be used today by us without necessity of any adaptation. So, and this is the reason why we can go into very effective communication today, tomorrow with them. Because for this communication, we do not need electromagnetic fields. No, we need some other very understandable and very simple technology. And if we will start to do it, we can create a very unusual situation, which actually took place thousands of years ago. We can start to communicate daily with civilization, which will give us a lot of knowledge. They are ready for that. We are still not ready. But I hope that the meetings and the conversations like we have today will help people to open their mind and to go forward to meet this situation and to become a part of this, universal humanity.
Yeah, no, these are the kind of conversations that, I spend a lot of time having with people. It's just amazing. I'm just amazed that I just stumbled upon you this week, and then, I'm talking to you and we're having this amazing conversation. So I have a question for you. How do you utilize this type of technology and energy in your daily life? And then also, what was the most profound moment or experience that you've had in walking this path and maybe experiencing, being in a situation where you're standing in a, heightened vibration due to this technology that you're helping people to understand.
So this technology, actually, I'm the one who didn't wait for a long time. When I came to understanding how these tools, ancient, let's say, not only Egyptian, because these tools like the wands of Horus, they have been used in Sumerian civilization, also Indian civilization. Also, you can find this tool in many, many other cultures. I created it and I started to use, I'm using it daily. I have it on my bed. So when I go to bed, I take them in my hands. I take special insoles with copper and zinc inserts, and I have them in my sport shoes, in my usual shoes. I put them in the socks, and I'm sleeping with them. This is the reason why I go to bed, for example, at 5, sometimes o'clock in the morning, but I'm getting at 9, and I feel myself very, very relaxed. It means as if I was sleeping 1 week. I feel myself very energized. I tell you that I'm 66 years old, and my daughter is 6. And I'm going to have more kids because I feel myself absolutely young person as I'm 25. My home, I built my home, and in each floor, in each walls, in each ceiling, I have installed so-called energetical sources. If you go on my website, newpyramids.store, you will find there a section devoted to a very unusual project. At the end of 2012, we built a spa, which we called Crystal Spa and Lounge. But this spa is only one in the world who was planned and built in full accordance to that type of knowledge which have been used when building temples and pyramids in ancient Egypt. And do you know what? On the autumn of 2012, we opened this spa, and the autumn of 2013, you can go there only by phone calls because you need to make an arrangement. Otherwise, no chance to go in because it's absolutely occupied. And then I'm inviting any one of you, come to this crystal spa and feel yourself. It is absolutely amazing feeling because if person will go there once, just once, she or he stays there. That's all, because they are coming only to Crystal Spa, nowhere else, because they feel themselves there. Fantastic. They start to write poems. They became a painter. So unusual stories. So I did the same at home. And I tell you, effect is more than interesting. I'm sure people must use it at home, and you will be very, very far away from any illnesses, feeling yourself quite a young person, even being like 60 or 70, I'm sure about it. Actually, what we need, all of us, we need energy. That's all. Energy which is synchronized with your aura and with the aura of the planet Earth. That's all. And you will become like a perfect one. So, welcome to use this knowledge.
Okay, so so it says on your website, like, when it kind of gives your like bio, it says all of the different places that you've been, it kind of in pursuit of studying the knowledge that you're talking about.
Yes, I have visited a lot of countries and different civilizations just to learn, to see, to experience by myself. Because even when we are talking about, for example, the pyramids, ancient Egyptian pyramids, I need to go there as I did and felt it by myself. And also there is another key moment. Interesting, by the way, a very interesting detail. I was just lucky. You just asked me, okay, what kind of experience, Valery, you had during your life, unusual experience? I tell you just one story. Once, it was many, many years ago, when I was in the other expedition in the middle of Siberia, and we have been trying to come closer to understanding of construction of very unusual, let's call it, device. We call it installation. I'm talking about a pretty big technical device which defend our planet against meteorites and asteroids. This is exactly this installation, this technical, how I don't know how to call it properly, destroyed Tunguska meteorite. Or exactly this installation destroyed the meteorite on, if you remember, on 15th of February 2013 over Chelyabinsk. There are many cases when this installation have been keeping our planet from the very tragical events, because some of the meteorite, as we know for today, they are carrying dangerous bacteria. So somebody built this installation. So we have been trying to see, to learn where it is, how it works, any information about it. So, and during one of the expeditions, I was lucky to have kind of a close encounter with it. So, and this close encounter, it was, well, not long. It was pretty short one, but I had a few questions. On the one hand, very, very simple questions, because we are just at the beginning, all of us, we are just at the beginning of understanding. So, but during this conversation, they showed me my previous life. And also later, when we built a pyramid, not only the first experimental pyramid, also we built, as I told you, a complex of the pyramid. I had a chance using this tool to see my previous life. And I was astonished to see that. That was in Mexico. It was not so far. Actually, it was Mérida city. So I went there at a certain day, exactly on that day when I was put on fire and the city almost 500 years ago. So what I am trying to explain, what I'm trying to bring to you is understanding. You need to visit the place of your former death. So when I did it, that was something very special, I tell you. I'm not talking about just about the feelings, very unusual. Interesting was that when I came out of the temple, and then I have visited the nearest pyramid complex to Mérida, I knew exactly what was the reason for one or another pyramid to be built, why this pyramid has exactly this or shape or this proportion. Later, I I noticed it many times then when I was reading, for example, ancient Egyptian texts, which I read before many times. I started to see what I never saw before. And this is, I tell you, very, very unusual detail, which actually explains why some people visiting different countries, sometimes they come with very unusual changes in their mentality, in their understanding. So, you asked me about unusual experience. That was probably most important, very unusual, because from that day on, that helped me to see and describe many, many details in connection with ancient technologies. And this is the reason why actually I'm doing it now and trying to share this knowledge with the people. Because we can start to use it today. It's important. We can start to use it tomorrow with the very, very important details. So,
yeah, no, this is good information. I like to have people on my show that are grassroots people who are already doing the work, they've gone past like talking about it and actually are doing it and experiencing it and creating a new vocabulary for the collective or the populations of the world, to use. Because in our culture, we, like in the English language in the US, we have kind of a limited language, and we need to develop a new vocabulary about the future in a positive way that we don't have.
Very, very good, clever. Thank you, because this is the best. Very clever. For sure, you should do it. We Russians, let's say, we are lucky because our language is very complicated on one hand, but it's so informative that if you take just a sentence and you change just last letter in the last word, the meaning of the whole sentence will be completely different. So you are on the right pace, right way. Try to continue just to make it this new language, new vocabulary. You are right, because when I was trying to translate my book into English, it was not easy. Even today, I'm still fighting, because actually I have a book to be published. The book which is called Pyramids: The Legacy of the Gods. This book actually is scientific, written by a very simple language, and this book contains all answers to that questions which you can find in the books of Graham Hancock and Duval and the other, my favorite authors. But I came to understanding, like you said, that we need to bring it in a certain understandable form and somehow to bring it into a new language so that your inner soul start to get into the resonance with that vibrations which the souls, the spirituality of ancient Egyptian priests were emitting. So good. You just told a very, very good thing. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I struggle sometimes just, in my show and also on my YouTube channel to explain things to people, because I have a limited language and I actually have to create words. I have to make new words. And I get accused of this a lot that, Bridgette, that's not a word. I'm like, well, it has to be a word now because, I don't have any other way to describe it.
You do it like Pushkin, because our famous Russian poet, maybe you have heard Pushkin, he was also inventing new words in Russian language.
Yeah, well, it has to happen, because the other thing too is that I find that I don't like the vocabulary of let's say, the mainstream towards the future. You know, I personally, as a conscious being, am not interested in some of the future forecasts and vocabulary that are used, like in movies and Hollywood and fiction and some of these things. That reality isn't like a reality that I want to live or experience. And so I don't want to create it by using a vocabulary that's created. And so then you have your regular vocabulary, you know, that you're operating from, and then it's very difficult. And I think it's important. I mean, this is just kind of my perception, but dealing with people a lot in the kind of work that I do, it's really important for them to develop a new vocabulary to be able. There's something about witnessing when they can talk about the experience that they've had through their lifetime, or that they're having, you know, that are spiritual. That when they can explain that to another person, it like changes them. You know, it opens up a door.
It's like in the music. It's like in the music when you take an instrument like a synthesizer, which starts to play with a quite unusual color, but this color contains a lot of, you know, a lot of ideas. So this is exactly what you are talking about now with the language. Good, right? You're on the right way.
Yeah, so I'm very excited because you're using a lot of, you know, interesting language, and I really appreciate that, because I'm sitting here, I'm humming, my body is humming while I'm listening to you. So that's a good thing. I'm watching like orbs fly by and my body's humming. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to probably have to leave here, go outside to the river for a while and kind of, you know, absorb the download that you are emanating. Right.
Actually, yeah, this is
energetically. Yeah.
Yeah, this is energy, which actually, you are right. First of all, you need to take this energy. You need to observe this energy, and then you need some time to give this energy a time to work. You know, to be utilized by your aura, because very few people understand that when you, for example, take a book and start to read it first time, you are reading this book by your first aura. First energetical body. But when you take this book second time in 2 weeks, you start to read it by your second energetical body. And people always say, okay, listen, I'm reading this book second time, but it looks like I never read it before. I see much, much more. But if you read it 9 times, when you will read it by your 9th energetical body, which you actually have, then this secrets starts to be opened. Exactly what you are talking about in connection with the necessity to use a new words. But these words will appear by themselves. You need just to know about this very special trick, synchronization with the book, with the knowledge, with the text, by all 9 your energetical bodies.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes before we go to break, and then we're going to go to break for 4 minutes. And so I usually just mute during that time so the promos can run. And then we'll come back at the top about 1 after the hour, and we'll continue the conversation. But one of the things I want to talk to you about is something that, you know, when we come back, that I've been thinking about, and I, you know, being, you know, watching plants and, you know, seeing their flowers and lots of different things. If they were in like the right environment, say with some kind of like pyramid shape or technology, you know, the way that sometimes the flowers and things like that develop so that the bees have perfect landing, or whatever pollinator that they have, you know, some of them, you know, have runways, and, you know, that the plants have developed, but also the plants develop certain types of leaves that respond to frequency and light, and you could really heal an environment really rapidly. Could you or could you not? With this.
First of all, you are absolutely right when you are trying to bring us to understanding that any plant, any living creature has kind of a consciousness.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go to break here. So we're going to mute. We won't be able to hear the promos, but we'll be back at 1 after. So take a break, come back, and then continue on that stream of information.
Okay.
Be right back. See you at 1 after.
Okay. Thank you.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, all you good-looking people out there in Revolution Radio. This is Mario. I invite you to join me Thursdays at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other. It's a show about you, it's a show about me, but ultimately it's a show where we try to have a little bit of fun. We discuss important topics, and we do our best to be apolitical. So I invite you, put on your favorite pair of comfy sweats, your smoking jacket, and grab a beverage of your choice, and join me Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
From the astral realms to the physical plane, the halls of power to the walls of home, the multiverse to the innerverse, all will be haunted by the ghost in the machine. I am Steve Zerloff, the ghost in the machine. Mondays, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B. Exclusively here on Revolution.Radio.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
We're back for the second hour of Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show. And my guest is Valery, and or he can pronounce his name. Pronounce your name.
Valery.
Okay.
Yeah, Valery Uvarov.
It's almost like a T instead of an R, huh?
Yeah, Valery. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to write that down in a in a way that I can remember it. Okay, so I just also want to just having a super great conversation and all the information that he's bringing forward, and I just want to spell his name so that you can look him up on the internet. So it's Valery. His last name is Uvarov, and he has some videos on YouTube, flying over Pyramid Complex, which I really dig, building a pyramid complex community. And then also he has a website, newpyramids.store, where he has all kinds of different information, scientific research, information about him. I highly recommend that you search him out, and he has quite a few amazing books that the Wands of Horus, it goes all the way back to 1995, Cylinders of the Pharaohs, Wands of Horus, the upgrades and updates, mysterious properties of the pyramids, Pyramids 2007, 2008, Pyramids Legacy of the Gods 2013, and then a revised version, Pyramid Legacy of the Gods in 2017. And you know, he's been around some of the top people who are bringing us new information about technologies that are from our past. Okay, so continuing on, like the stream, can we use, because I always think about when I'm out, one of the things that I do is I do a little bit of consulting for large-scale land restoration from a microbial mass and plants and seeds, you know, kind of a format. Also teaching people how to fix their soils to grow food. But the other thing too is that I always end up having to look at, you know, land or nature. And I also notice how nature grows a certain way that I think that it needs like the kind of frequencies or energies that you're talking about, and how they can resend them or change the structure, you know, like even with the wind, like leaves blow a certain kind of way, they're creating a frequency. The bees come in around a whole tree, that's creating energy and changing a whole frequency. And so how could we use the pyramid energy to help the environments to restore themselves faster?
Sure. First of all, when you were talking about the plants and animals, they have their own consciousness. That's clear for all people. Then look, we need to create a kind of intermediate environment, special dense energy, and if you will create it even in a local area, and you will increase the density of this energy, then your mental impulse will reach this consciousness of the plants or animals very, very quickly. You will start to understand. Remember Old Testament, especially that story about protocol language, or so what we call proto-language. That was the time, if you remember, when they were talking one language. I was very, very deeply investigating this topic, and I came to a very strict conclusion that this proto or protocol language was a telepathical language. And how our predecessors reached or managed to use telepathical language. That story is about Atlantis, where in a certain not big area, just building a pyramid complexes and a special energetical systems, they created a special energetical environmental. Like when you go inside, like for example, in our pyramid complex, which we built, if you go into the pyramid, you start to feel like your body is tickling, very strong tickling, and the air became dense, and such energy, your mental impulses, they are very easily not only go into resonance and use this, this between your brains and the consciousness of an animal or even plants. You start to talk very, very easy. You don't need a lot of strength. No. And this is, by the way, the reason why in ancient times, and you can find text about it, those gods who came on the planet Earth, and they were living on the planet Earth, not together with people. They were living in the remote areas, but they built what is described in ancient Sumerian texts as Tilmun, the land of life. It means that just building a certain pyramids, certain energetical systems, using so-called energetical locations like breaks in the earth crust, you can create a system of reflection of energy, concentrated in a certain area, where inside of this area, your inner biological time will be conservated. Conservated means you can then live 50 years, 60, 100, 150, 200, 300, 400, 500, doesn't matter. Because your time is inner biological is conservated. And this is a very important topic and knowledge which I have found in ancient texts. In our life, we are living not in harmony. Yes, we know about Baka or Yin-Yang, for example, in Eastern tradition. And we know that Yin-Yang is like a male and female beginning. It's like something like cold and hot, plus and minus. But one important aspect of this knowledge have been lost, but not fully lost. Baka or Yin-Yang is two encounter flows of time. So an ancient Eastern text says, if you harmonize the level of Yin, a level of Yang, it means the speed of Yin and speed of Yang will be harmonized, you get a very interesting effect. Conservation. If not harmonized, whether you get a cancer or, your life, in any way, your life is limited. And, you can find this idea very easy. What you need to have, as we say, scientifically tuned brains and read ancient texts exactly as it is written. Don't fantasize. Just read and translate what this text is about. And you can find this text, and these texts are fully scientific. So, just coming back to what we started about, you are absolutely right. We can create a communication between plants, between human beings and even animals. But for that, we need energy. Let's create more energy in the areas where we live, and you will get this result very quickly.
Okay, so where is your crystal spa? You didn't say where your crystal spa was. So if people want to come and visit.
It's in St. Petersburg.
Oh, St. Petersburg.
Yes, so, right in the middle of the St. Petersburg, there is a street. So a street is Zhukovskого 18. Zhukovskого 18. So if you just write or go to my website, newpyramids.store, you will find the information about Crystal Spa with email, telephone, addresses, website address, everything is there.
So I just have kind of so one of the things that I've noticed, more, let's just say that there's more and more information from, the people of Russia that is infiltrating a lot of our internet and information. And I just know from having had Russian friends in the past that a lot of Russians have branches of information and knowledge and research that they're doing that, also has to do with maybe the spiritual end also, that's like incorporated in the studies, where we don't really find that a lot in some of the other countries.
On one hand, I think that in the beginning, or at the beginning, we had one and the same source of knowledge. And today, well, by a very special reason, this situation, when people were operating with one and the same knowledge, have been changed. And I should be clear and open before you, saying that humanity came through 15,000 of years of very hard times, when a certain extraterrestrial civilization, they did their best to let people forget about our previous possibilities, about our prehistory. You know why? Because genetically and by many other aspects, energetical aspects, mental aspects, we were, and actually are, still are, much stronger than some other extraterrestrial civilizations. And this is true. And this is the reason why in my nearest video, which I'm going to make, it's going to be a series of video films, which it, like a working name is the War of the Gods. I'm going to give some knowledge about the War of the Gods, when it happened, what actually happened, how this War of the God have been, ended or completed. So what happened with humanity later? And I'm sure that when we learn about it, the first wish which we will experience, all of us, we will wish to get united, to get together, and start to fight for our future together, just sharing knowledge and maybe correcting those deviations from norm, which actually, sure, we have. But one thing I'd like to make it clear and opened. This present political situation, very special one, and you know about it, between Russia and America, is by a very special, strict reason. Because these two people are very energetically and spiritually strong. And this is the people who can change this world very effectively within the nearest 10, 15 years. And somebody, and this is true, who don't want it by a very special reason, they're trying to bring, how to make our people to fight, to be in a certain conflict, just losing energy, which we could bring for self-perfection, for self-development. This energy we actually planned to lose in this conflict. And this is another reason why I am openly talk to you today, because I know that together we can make a lot. We can make this world for better very, very quickly. But we need, first of all, to find the way to each other. We need to come to understanding that anything which is going on between us now, it's not because America is bad or Russia is bad. No. It's because somebody doesn't want us to be together. They doesn't want our civilization to very effectively develop. And now, when people will learn and will understand it, it will be the moment of choice. What choice you're going to make? We go in front, we go to each other and start to create this new world on the positive stimulus, or we're going to continue this useless conflict. I think for all of us, for all normal, simple people, it is clear. We should go together. We should unite. And our genetics, our mentality is equal, and we can understand each other very quickly and very deeply. So welcome for cooperation.
Yeah, no, I'm big on cooperation. I'm a cooperative for sure.
But I see that your family name is Russian, by the way.
It is. Well, and I kind of, I have a little bit of a story because I grew up, and I don't know if a lot of it has to play into genetics. I think that a lot of it is. My dad, who couldn't be in my life. There's like a long kind of story with that, with the government and him and his abilities, and it wasn't pretty. So he was in hiding. So I didn't really, I didn't really know that I was Russian until I was like 16. That I was like half Russian, and my dad, both of his parents. His mother was born in Russia and came here, with her family. And there's just a lot of, weird stories that it's been recently that I've through Ancestry.com that some of my relatives from my grandmother's side, his mother, have found me. And, we've talked. But I've always known that I was different. I was always, physically super strong. I had a lot of the genetic characteristics.
I don't know. We have so many mutual roots, not only between like you, Valery Uvarov, and your Dolgoff. It's a Russian name. I know. I tell you the truth that
the other family name is Zinov, I think.
It's also the same. Zinov, also Russian. Yes. We in Russia, we love America so much. I don't know why, but probably it's genetic love, something inside of us, because we have a so deep connection, so long in the history. So,
and I always, growing up, I didn't know that I was Russian. And so the more that I studied about Russian, it kind of was terrible to be in America, be an American, born in America, but not have really had any, Russian influence, even though that everything about me genetically and how I manage this world and my intelligence and stuff, I think is very genetic, Russian. I'm very strong. Have a lot of tenacity. I'll take that cart and move it, even if there's no horses, right? I'll make a bridge. I'll make a way. And so for me, it's been very sad until recently, where I'm watching all these, amazing, brilliant Russians and all of their brilliant information that is coming out. It's just, it makes me feel like I want to connect more, like I want to be in a cooperative with people who are amazing, because, I was raised that Russia was bad, that Russia was dangerous and all of these things. And now I realize it's because of their thinking. Because of their science. It was because of their abilities and their intelligence and how they were, studying the world around them that made them dangerous to American thinking, right? Because
in Russia, it was interesting that when I was, for example, young, so we could hear that America is bad from politicians. America is bad from militaries. But between simple people, just civil people, America is good. It's interesting that it's funny, because for millions of people, America is, it's very good. But just only few people, militaries and politicians, were trying to bring this negativity in our understanding, but they failed.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, I've had major life-changing events, big, heavy spiritual ones, but things like the Anastasia books, the Red Cedar books, that were finally translated in 2005, really changed a lot of people's lives in America about, possibilities that you could live without clothing in a Siberia. You know what I mean? It depending on where you were at energetically. Where are you at energetically? You could change the course of food by putting the seeds in your mouth so that they adapt to your DNA, and then you care for them and they create the medicine you need for anything that's wrong with you. And then, the Water movie that came out that had subtitles, and it was all Russian scientists that talked about a new philosophy about water, and that it's super conscious, and just all the amazing things that came around it. I mean, so there a lot of amazing information, is slowly kind of leaking into the consciousness of America from amazing, people in Russia that, have been thinking and doing science and everything else around it, including yourself. So it's just really, for me, it's really awesome to talk to people about a lot of this information, that we're getting out onto the market in the U.S. And I mean, really thank the universe for creating the internet.
Can you imagine, for example, if you take just 50 tons of water, just imagine 50 tons of water, like a tank. So in this water contains all information in all details, even chemical composition of each creature each cell, each mineral which appear on the planet Earth from its beginning up till today. Can you imagine? 50 tons. And this is exactly the reason why in ancient time, pyramid complexes, they were built close to the water. Ancient temples have been built close to the water. And water and the rivers and lakes, they have been inside or around the temple complexes. And this is the reason why we made a big, special, like a pool inside of a pyramid, central pyramid of our complex in Siberia, 2-level pool with the water and special system. It's like and the main idea, it's like an energetical beam, like an energetical laser, let's say beam, which go through your head and then into this water and then reflected from the water back to your brain. And I think you understand why. Just to read this endless amount of information from this water, because water and this like moleculars of water, it's like a cell of the brain of the planet Earth. This is how I myself describe it, because our brain is actually more than 90% of water. And these cells and this communication between cells of our brains gives us the possibility to communicate with the God, with this informational field. The same with the planet Earth and the water here. This is the reason why water is so special. If you properly communicate with water, you can get a lot of beneficial effects, a lot.
A huge amount. And one of the things that I'm doing when I go out and collect my herbal medicine, and you'd be surprised, I live in the desert and there's still a lot along the river, but I usually go to the river and I utilize the plants that are along the river. And one of the first things I do when I show up is I bless and thank the water before I do anything else. Like, you know, I might have plants in mind that I'm going to collect, but once I connect with that water and I thank it and I bless it, it just changes the whole structure of how, you know, communicating with the plants and finding the plant medicine and harvesting it and all of that goes down, you know, releases my stress, connect with the water, the plants are connected to the water. And then I feel like my medicines, you know, my tinctures and everything else are a little bit stronger because of that connection with the water.
And by the way, ancient Atlantean civilization, you know, you have heard, and people know that they have been very developed and they had very unusual skills. And I can tell you that they have developed their skills just because of the water. They have been using the capacities, the energy of the water. This is a very interesting story, which I'm going to describe in my following book. But water is the key. That's why water is so important for development of any forms of life in all universe.
Yeah. In biodynamics, we have flow forms that assist the water in its consciousness. We utilize those for the land. And it's shocking. I mean, even if people out there are not believing in kind of the spiritual levels, I know farmers, biodynamic farmers, who have decreased water usage by using flow forms and vortex spinners of water, gravity fed, and they've cut down 3/4 of their water uses on their farms, their irrigation, because the water has oxygen. They talk a lot about how its spirit has returned back to it, its memory, and the charge, the energetic charge. is
and
return back to it.
You can make a record of your intent, your wish. You make a record. For this, you need the energy. By the way, this is the reason why, for example, I have a pretty big home where I live. I have two, which I built also for my daughter. And inside of it, I have a swimming pool. This swimming pool, something special. I built it exactly according to the ancient knowledge. And welcome to swim. You will experience how really water is vibrating. Because when you dive in the swimming pool, your body starts to tickle. Like, interesting. And this water can heal a lot, even behaving itself as the conscious mind, sometimes even independently from you. What you need is just to realize that this is possible, and then you just send a request, kind of a mental program. Please help me, for example, with my pancreas, or water, please help me with my kidney. You go into this water, and I tell you, my feeling, personal, my kidney starts to vibrate like somebody is, just taking them in the hands and moving from one side to another. I feel it clearly how it works, but I'm not touching my kidneys or my, other organs. It's water. Water is acting. Very interesting effect with water.
That's an amazing story. And it's kind of interesting because you have like the whole pyramid thing and the whole energy component. I think that is kind of a piece of the puzzle that I need, in order for the rest of the stuff that I'm working with. But
I
recently...
what I'd like to do is just, sorry for interruption.
Yeah.
I want to bring this knowledge, like, let's say, I want to go away from mystical stuff. Because if you read it, like ancient Egyptian, like classical Egyptian books, there are too mystics. No, in reality, everything is pure science, very understandable. This is the tool. So if you accept it, if you take it in account as the tool, then you can use it today.
Yeah, no, this is a very good enlightening conversation for me, because there are a lot of things that I've been working on with like plants and seeds and soil that fit right into this puzzle. How do you get the power? How do you generate the power? How do you generate the energy that's needed to elevate the life force?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Actually,
and that's what you're talking about is like...
Yeah, but we are just at the beginning.
Yeah.
Today we are it's the first day, our first conversation. We have so much to share. So welcome. Let's do it. I will be happy to share with people what I have found.
Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left. But I want to tell you about this. So this last year, the seed, I look at everything as a being, right? And the seeds they're also like water, the molecules of water, which are like computer chips that store data and information. And you just need the energy, right, to activate them. And in the U.S., a lot of the native teachers I've had, they use ceremonies as technology, right? To open up the energy fields, to activate the energy, to get everything like vibrating. They use lots of different, technologies for that, which, all these things are technologies. A drum is a technology. A rattle can be a technology. A feather, a group of feathers together. But the seeds, so I've been involved in the native seed movement this year, and I'm working with people. Eventually I'm going to be doing large outgrows to return these seeds. And some of these seeds are recorded under native oral tradition as 5,000 years old. And they have actually DNA they have like coating on some of the outside of them because they're so old, and they have been traveling, and there have been some tribal people that are finally in South America releasing some of these seeds. I'm working with a guy named Stephen Smith, who he's so brilliant. He's 22 years old, and he goes and he has the largest collection of native seeds, and he's trying to restore the native seed population to the world, so that we can activate the energies and the codes. And they have stories that the extraterrestrials brought these to the native people, as, ways to heal the earth, heal themselves, and as, medicines, frequencies. And they do, as soon as you put them into the ground, they start to connect with that soil and that water. They start to issue frequencies and vibrations into the atmosphere, the soil and the water, and the vibrations go out really far. I grew some of this ancient type corn last summer, and in the middle of the desert, it brought in all these insects that it just was unbelievable. I mean, like mists and clouds of little turquoise dragonflies. It was just so crazy and unbelievable. And so I've had experience, with these kinds of fields that we have now. These things that we have now that can regenerate the planet, because it's creating the energetic power source to influence it and regenerate it, which we're really, really lacking. We're really, really lacking these this energy. So do you want to? Anyway, I just wanted to kind of include that because, I've had the similar kind of experiences with just growing these seeds, these really old seeds, where the whole frequency around a whole area will completely change.
Yeah, it's as we spoke before, this is the consciousness of the seeds.
Yeah.
Consciousness. And if you create this special energetical environment between you and seeds, actually between humanity, you can get unbelievable connection and results and communication, sometimes influencing genetic codes of the seeds, or even sometimes, which is much more difficult, but sometimes even affecting human health just mentally. But for that, we need a proper, good, honest intention and energy. The more, the better. The planet Earth, you are right. We are coming now through a very special period of time, which actually started on 1994. That was pretty long ago, but our planet came to a certain sector of our galaxy where electromagnetic fields, like other type of energetical fields, they are affecting our sun, and our sun became very active, more explosive. I'm talking about solar and magnetic storms, and this affect electromagnetic field of the Earth, and everything on the planet Earth now, already from 1994, is under a very, very strong influence of this type of energy. And on one hand, it affects our immune system, an immune system of the bees, for example, or animals, by very negative ways, especially if you don't know what's going on and how to fight against it. But if you know how to use these effects, then you can come to very unusual results. Also, like some ancient texts says that the time will come when the dead will erase. It means that the energy will be so strong in certain areas of the planet Earth that people will start to see through this energetical membrane between this dimension and the parallel dimension. Those people who do not understand it, they can consider those whom they will see like a dead people, or the ghosts or something. No, this is just parallel reality. And this reality, this energy, they are influencing us. Do we know or not? Do we understand or not? Do we accept it or not? We need to properly operate with it. And if we do it properly, we can get wonderful results. It's like with the bees on 2008. I've got a few letters from people from Moscow, from the government, and the letters was about the bees and their health. The problem, that the bees are dying all over the world. So they gathered all information from all other countries, England, Europe, America, and they sent it to me with a request. Is it possible to find kind of a solution in some ancient texts about it? But you know that the bees in ancient Egyptian texts and hieroglyphs, it was something very, very special, and you can find a lot of bees. So we found this solution, and we made an experiment on 2009 with a very, very good results. So, and we solved this problem. And now all people whom I know, I'm working with, they have a wonderful situation with the bees, wonderful quality of the honey. So exactly the same thing. We just increased a certain energy, like an energy beam under the beehive. And then what we need to do is to create a certain rhythm of impulsation of this energy. It means there is a vortex, there is no beam. There is and there is no. And if you somehow tune it on the vibration of the planet Earth, then our bees, they are not dying. They became very strong, and their immune system became very strong. And so in Russia, among at least our, let's say, community, we have solved this problem with the bees.
That's fantastic news. I was thinking about, a lot of, we use the word operate, that we need to operate with it, right? We need to be involved, because our energy participation matters, individually and collectively, for saying that we could change this in 10 to 15 years by communicating with each other and sharing information openly. And recently, I went on a walk, part of the herbal medicine program. I have this amazing teacher, but we go on these long walks in these areas in Northern California. And I got to actually go to a climax forest with a man who is indigenous, native, and he does the land restoration for his tribe for a long period of time. And we got to go through this area. And one of the things that he kept saying over and over again, which kind of reminds me of the energy, information, the technology that you're using, he said that once the forest, when anything happens to that area, it could be a fire, it could be something bad that happens to it, then it will attract all kinds of different things into that area, including plants, even if the plants are invasive, because it's in a transitional period, and it has to have this stuff to actually rebuild itself. But once it's out of the transitionary period, and it's into the climax where it means that it's perfect, it sustains itself perfect, right? And you couldn't believe this little area, like the water, and that this energy, you could see the energy coming up out of the water as it was flowing through this area, and just the interaction of everything that was in it. But one of the things he said is that when it reaches the climax of sustainability within its own self, and it has everything it needs, it actually pushes out the things that would be bad for it in the long term. It'll push out those invasive plants, right? And he talked about a lot about how we're moving into a species plant seed Pangea, where a lot of this stuff will come together. But it kind of reminds me of like the energy in the pyramid that you're talking about, that it could actually, hum or vibrate at such a good frequency, the water, the pyramid, the this, the that, the different kinds of technologies, that it actually creates like a force field to help what is in its area, but actually shield maybe the negative, like the climax forest. It's able to push the I don't know, negative or no longer useful or detrimental energies more out towards the edge, away from.
On one hand, you can call them negative or positive. It's okay. But on the other hand, I also came to a clear understanding that the energy must be transformed into the range acceptable, for example, for human body, or for the bees, or in the range for animal or plants, and then this energy immediately become positive and very communicative. If the energy and vibration and the range of this vibration is not synchronized, not in the range of a human body, it can affect human body not positively. So you see, so on one hand, it makes us, or it let us better understanding what we actually should do. And this is the reason why in ancient times they used special minerals for the pyramids or for temples. And that minerals and their composition, because most part of the minerals which they used for building the pyramids or temples, that were not just natural stone. No, that was kind of a concrete. It was a composition of the minerals which they created, and then they made something like a natural, looking like a natural stone. But this stone had a very special, how to say, it was working like antenna or like a filter, better to say a filter, who was transforming the energy vortex into the range acceptable for human organism or for the plant. So this is the other very interesting topic. I think in the nearest future, maybe we can also talk about a little bit about the minerals and what type of the minerals they used, what was the reason stood behind the usage of one or another minerals, and how we can use them today to heal a certain mental problems or the brain problems or the health problems. Ancients, they were very knowledgeable. They were very, very developed in this type of knowledge, which actually I think we can divide, we can share with people, because the time has come and people now are more open than before, and a lot of people are searching for this type of knowledge, and I'm sure it will be easy to share so that people would accept it, would understand and accept it. And I hope that my English is good enough for communication these ideas to you.
It's fantastic. No, you're doing a super great job. I was worried because I told you on the email, like, I don't speak Russian. It was, so we're going to have to, but I've had other people on the show. Like, I have a good friend of mine in Uganda, and he brings his interpreter. So I've had him on before, and he's a traditional healer and, medicine man over there. And he has some interesting stuff too. So we figure it out because I want to bridge, how we can all communicate and talk about things that, we've been blocked from discussing or communicating and making friends and having these kinds of conversations. I would love to have you back on. I'm thrilled that you would actually want to come back on and have another conversation about it. And so we have like about 5 minutes. And I just really want to thank you. This conversation showed up at a really good point in my life. And that's what I usually find out about the show is, usually I end up finding people to be on my show that have information that I need, or ideas or thoughts, that can actually help me to expand. And I feel that helps everybody else because my intention is to know things in a good way, to seek and obtain knowledge and wisdom, and also build communities with other people and build bridges of that information. So it works really good for the collective as well. So in the last 5 minutes, do you have anything else that you really want to add or you want to say? Or
first of all, I'd like to thank you for this invitation and thank you for this possibility to talk with America, which I really love. And I think I'm inviting people to send us kind of questions for the future meetings, for future talk, conversation. What would you like to know from the topics we are talking about? And we can start talking about certain, not like today, we have been talking about everything. Sorry, and at the same time, it's difficult to cover and to explain everything. We just show people what we can discuss. And so now, welcome to our community, which we can create just being together with help of you, your channel, your program, or how you call it, a radio show, and let it be a channel through which we can share this knowledge with our guests, with our friends in America, and I'll be happy to participate in it.
Great. That's super exciting. I mean, I have some openings in August, so I'll shoot you those openings. And if you have time to come back on and share with us about, the minerals and some of the other thoughts that you have. But it's been a very wonderful 2 hours. You've just, now I have to go out, into nature and take a look around and absorb a lot of the conversation that we've had. And I particularly love the stuff about the water and that your swimming pool and that you can gauge it and gear it for the right frequency. It's almost like the way that you talked about the water, it would be like the human is like like a computer chip and it's being plugged into, a major, large scale, unlimited AI system.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a brain. It's a huge water. It's a brain with which we can communicate.
Yeah. No, I just love that. I had this really great visual of going in,
So I have sent you a few links to different topics, different materials about Hyperborea, about the Wands of Horus, Crystal Spar, and so just go there and read it, and then you will find a lot of interesting topics which we can discuss in the nearest future.
Yes, it'll be great. And I also will, in the process, I will actually post these topics as well with this show and other information for you, so people have access to all the information that you've provided.
Yeah.
And also it'll give me something else to that's a good one. Second birth of
Valery.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I'm pretty excited. I have some awesome things that I can actually look at as well. All right, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you for taking the time, because I have no idea. What time is it in Russia right now?
Well, it's actually 5 minutes to 10 p.m.
Yeah. But thank you so much for taking your time. It's the end of the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show on Revolution Radio. We'll see you next week, and we're definitely going to have our guests back on. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Welcome to Revolution Radio, where you, the listeners, are in charge. Here at Revolution Radio, we present 48 broadcast hours of news and information each and every day. Revolution Radio never sleeps. Revolution Radio is worldwide and borderless information. Revolution Radio is also commercial-free. Revolution Radio is supported 100% by you, the listeners. And that's why we appeal to you to donate and support this station and its expenses. You can support us in many available options like archive subscriptions, our seed pack selections, or even my woodworking store. And we also even have Revolution Radio's swag at the Revolution Radio Zazzle store, in which you can get t-shirts, coffee cups, even a baby onesie. Or you can just plain donate to the cause. We cannot continue without your support, and your support is what helps pay the bills. So please, if you wish us to continue, please stop by our station support page and drop a dime on us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank or all the banks